Hi Planty people, this is Carly and welcome back to my channel, The Planted Carly Flower. Today we are going to talk about another substrate you can put your plants in. This one is a little bit more geared towards epiphytes like Hoyas and things of that nature. Philodendrons do well in this substrate with some amendments. But yeah, today we are going to talk about Coco Husk. Yes, absolutely, you can put your plants in pure Coco Husk or add some amendments if you feel you would like to do that as well. It's completely personal preference. But we will talk all about that in the video today, and I will hopefully make you more confident in moving some of your plants into Coco Husk if you decide that's something that you want to do. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I do have more substrate videos coming out in the future that you sure don't want to miss. So let's get started. Okay guys, today like I said we're going to talk about Coco Husk. Coco Husk is basically the husk of coconuts. If you have reptiles, you might be familiar with this as a bedding substrate for your terrariums and your aquariums for your reptiles, and it's great as a substrate for plants. I do have some notes here so that I don't get off track all crazy. Now that I have my new camera, I can use my phone for notes, so let's go with that. So like I said, Coco Husk is basically the husk of coconuts, wood chips, various things like that. You can buy them in numerous places. I get mine on Amazon. You can get them in garden centers, and you can also get them in reptile stores, like pet stores, because like I said, it's a bedding substrate for reptiles as well. It is not the same thing as orchid bark. I know a lot of people think orchid bark, Coco Husk is the same. It's not the same. Coco Husk is less of an amendment. It is an amendment and you can put it in your soil, but in this particular incident, it's meant to be used solely as a substrate, and that's what I'm talking about today. So the kind I use is actually geared towards a reptile. I will put a picture of it here somewhere, and I will link it in the description box down below if it's on Amazon. The last time I went to go buy some, they did not have it anymore. It was sold out, I think. I don't know if they don't carry it anymore or if it was just sold out, but I'll put a picture of it. I have the hiccups. I'm so sorry. I'm drinking like 19 pounds of water, and it's just giving me the hiccups. I am so sorry. But we do what we got to do when we're on a weight loss journey. So, like I was saying, I will link it down below if they have it. But I will put a picture of it up, and you can check out any reptile bedding substrate and just look at the reviews. There's going to be people in the reviews probably talking about plant amendments because it is a dual purpose type of thing. But anyway, so I bought this, and this is just what's left of it because I bought a small thing of it. I did buy a different brand and type this time around because this one was sold out when I went to go buy more. I don't want to comment on it just yet because I haven't tried it. The bag is still sealed, so I can't really tell you how it performs or anything like that. So I'm just going to speak on the stuff that I've been using, just because I don't want to give you any bad information that I really don't have any business giving you until I've tried it myself. So we're going to go with what I've used in the past. To prepare your Coco Husks for planting your plants or whatever, I boil my Coco Husks. I don't normally do a whole lot of prep work with my substrate simply because I'm lazy. But with Coco Husk, since it is, you know, an organic material, there can be bacteria, there can be little critters in it. So I do boil it just to make sure I have a completely clean and sanitized substrate to plant my plants in. I would hate for my substrate to cause me some sort of an issue that I didn't even have before, simply because I was too lazy to do a little bit of prep work. So since this is an organic compound, substance, I do boil it. So I put it in a big pot of just tap water, and I boil it for about 20-30 minutes. Then I take it out of the water, I rinse it thoroughly, and I let it completely cool off. You definitely don't want to plant your plant, you definitely don't want to plant your plant in steaming hot cocoa husks. You will burn the crap out of your roots, and you don't want that. So boil it, rinse it off, let it chill, and while you're letting it chill, you're going to be surprised. When I boil my cocoa husks and rinse it and then put it in a big bowl and just let it hang out till it cools off, coconut husk stays moist forever, for like a million years. It took over a week for my bowl of cocoa husks to finally feel dry to the touch when I first did this. And that's because cocoa husk is very moisture retentive. Cocoa husk holds water longer than any other substrate. It holds it longer than pon. It holds it longer than leca. It holds it longer than soil. I can get away with watering my cocoa husk plants every week and a half to 2 weeks in my cabinet. Outside of the cabinet, every week or so. And I live in a dry environment, so that tells you something right there. Cocoa husk is by far one of my favorite things to plant Hoyas in, especially if it's going in my cabinet. Hoyas are epiphytes, which means that they actually attach their roots to and gain nutrients from other plants. They grow on tree bark, they grow up the sides of trees and onto limbs of trees out in their natural environment. So cocoa husk feels so at home to them. They flourish in it, they thrive in it, and it's a really great substrate for Hoyas in particular. That's what I have mostly in cocoa husks. I do have one philodendron in it, and it's doing just fine, but I feel like my expertise in this area relies on Hoyas, so I'll mostly be speaking about Hoyas in this video. So to plant your plant in cocoa husk, it's the easiest thing in the world. You literally put your plant in the pot like you want it, and then just put a little bit of cocoa husk in the bottom of the pot. Put your plant in, hold it the way you want it, and then just push cocoa husk all around it. I usually push quite a bit in there because I want it to make sure I don't compact it to where nothing can fit, but I want to make sure there's no air gaps or holes or anything like that. I will use a chopstick kind of and poke down in there and just make sure it's all settled and even, and then you water it. And you water it just like any other plant. You just take it and run water through the cocoa husks until they're saturated. I might leave a ½ inch little reservoir at the bottom to allow any dry spots to soak up that water through capillary action, and within a day or two that water is typically just gone out of the pot, out of the saucer that it's sitting in, and that's about it. Super simple, super easy. It holds on, like I said, it holds on to moisture forever. You can root in cocoa husks. If you do decide to root in cocoa husks, you have to water it a little more often to keep it pretty damp, and you need it does a lot better with a lot of humidity and warmth if you're using cocoa husks. You can get away with leca, pon, without giving it too much more humidity because I'm not really sure why. I think it creates a more humid environment around it, but I do find that I need to give a little bit more humidity to my plants in cocoa husk if I'm rooting that way. Now, I put my plants in straight cocoa husk because I prefer to fertilize on my own. You can add slow release fertilizer to your cocoa husks, and it can oh god, I'll put a picture of it. The little fertilizer balls that slow release over time. Lots of people put those in their cocoa husk, and that's great. They work well. I just prefer to fertilize as I see and as I want to, so I can control it a little bit better. And I use my Dyna Gro Foliage Pro. The same nutrients I use for my pon and my leca, I use in my cocoa husks. So this is what I use, and my plants are thriving on it. They're happy. I just treat it like any other semi-hydro. I put a teaspoon into a gallon of distilled or filtered water. I use distilled, and I water like normal and leave a little bit of a reservoir. And I do this about every 2 weeks for my cocoa husk plants, and they seem to really be loving it. There's really not a whole lot to say. I have not had any failures growing Hoyas in cocoa husks. I have not lost a plant that's been in cocoa husks. In fact, my first plant I ever put in cocoa husk, how many times can I say cocoa husk? Take a shot every time I say cocoa husk. Don't do that. I've said it like 40 times already, and I will not be held responsible. So anyway, my first plant that I put into this substrate is my Calistophylla shortleaf, and it currently right now is growing a giant tendril, a new leaf, and it has a budded peduncle. You can absolutely flower your Hoyas in Coco Husks. It does live in my Millsbo cabinet with Eastern light, grow lights, and all the best of the humidity it can possibly absorb. But yeah, so it's definitely able to do all the things that you want to accomplish with your Hoya, can all be done in Coco Husk. I have a Coroniara, also in Coco Husk that has a peduncle and is growing 2 new leaves right now. Yeah, I have several plants of Coco Husk. Unsolicited Plant Talks, April from Unsolicited Plant Talks, also puts all of her plants in Coco Husk. She uses the little slow release fertilizer balls in her plants, and they're thriving and vibing. Highly recommend Coco Husk as a substrate for Hoyas in particular. Super easy to do. The maintenance, like I said, is very simple. Rooting, just keep it a little bit more moist than you would if you were just having the plant live in the Coco Husks. It's a great substrate, and it makes the Hoyas feel very at home because they are used to climbing up trees and attaching themselves to bark out in the wild. So this is like being a little slice of home in an unfamiliar territory for them. As I said, I do use a little bit of a water reservoir when I water. I put a little bit in there, and it soaks it up over time through capillary action if I missed any of the Coco Husks when I'm watering. The downside to Coco Husk, if there is one, is that I personally find it unable to be reused. And it's very difficult to transfer plants that you decide for some reason you don't want in Coco Husks out of Coco Husks. The roots do pretty much fuse to the Coco Husk. You will lose some roots because you'll have to rip them off in order to get the Coco Husks off. So that is a downside. If you don't think you might want to keep a plant in Coco Husk long term, it's a little hard to get it off of there, I will warn you. I'm not saying it can't be done with a lot of soaking and a lot of, gentle pooling, but it is very difficult, and more often than not I end up ripping some of the roots trying to get it off, so I don't do that anymore. And then I discovered it's a great thing to grow your plants in, so now I don't even need to. It doesn't really break down quickly. I've had some plants in Coco Husks for a number of months now. I'd say almost half a year, and I haven't seen any overall degeneration with my Coco Husks. I haven't seen any issues with anything like that. So I highly recommend it as a long-term substrate. I don't have any that I'm intending to take out of Coco Husk anytime soon. All my plants that are in it are super happy and thriving and vibing, so not really interested in unpotting them out of that. And another downside is I don't find Coco Husk to be reusable. If you rip the Coco Husk off the roots are still going to be attached to the Coco Husk, and boiling it is just not going to get rid of those roots, and it's not something I would want to plant a fresh plant into. So unfortunately, if you decide to take a plant out of Coco Husk, in my opinion, that Coco Husk would not be reusable. I'm sure there would be pieces that aren't attached to roots that you can try and reuse and boil and reuse, but honestly, I got a 2-pound bag of this stuff for $4. I don't really feel the need to worry myself about reusing it. It's very cheap as a substrate and very easy to obtain, and I just don't really feel the need to reuse it, honestly. It's not expensive like leca or pon or soil amendments. It's really not a very expensive substrate. So if you're wanting to get a Hoya collection and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money making the airiest of soils or doing leca or pon, this is a great option for you. You can use the torn apart wispy Coco Husk like this, which does have some chunks in it, or you can get cocoa chips, which are basically more chippy and a little chunky. They all work the same and it all works well. It's just, planter's preference, whatever you like. So yeah, let me check my little notes here and make sure I'm not forgetting to tell you anything. Nope. I have, like I said, a shortleaf Calistophylla, a Coroniaria. I have my Hoya Joy. I have my Hoya Belenensis, my Hoya Cerulowicii. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. No, one more thing I want to talk about with the Coco Husks. I cannot comment on pest situations. I can tell you I've never had fungus gnats or any pests in my plants that are in Coco Husk, but I don't know if it's possible to get fungus gnats. I don't know if they would like that kind of a substrate to nest in, to lay their eggs in. But I can tell you that I have not had that issue. So a little bit of caution, exercise a little bit of caution if you're unsure. If you have a fungus gnat situation and you want to repot all your plants, I don't know that this will solve your problem, but I can tell you that I have not had issues with fungus gnats in my Coco Husk. I've not had mealies or spider mites or thrips, or where's some wood that I can knock on, because I'm probably screwing myself by saying this. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and all my Coco Husk plants are going to be covered in spider mites and thrips, and then I'm going to have to come on here and call myself a dirty liar, because that's the way it is, right? But yeah, so Coco Husks, I highly recommend it. It's one of my top favorite things to put Hoyas in. I definitely will continue to put more Hoyas into it, and I probably don't even have as many Hoyas in it that I would like to. So definitely a good substrate. I highly recommend, and I definitely would hope that you would try it. If you do decide to try it, let me know. Hit me up on Instagram. Let me know how it's working out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to answer those for you. And I really hope that this gave you some information and some knowledge on using Coco Husk as a substrate. If you have any questions, comments, like I said, please let me know. I'm always happy to help, always happy to converse with you guys. Hit subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff that helps me grow my channel and find more planty friends like you guys that I can collaborate with and talk to. And I hope you guys have an absolutely great rest of your day, and I hope you get to spend a lot of that time of the day with your plants. Have a good one.